We set our focus today on potato farming as we visit one of the largest producers of high-quality potato seeds in South Africa. Hello and welcome to Shepherd Sofa, the Mpumalanga edition. If you thought that growing potatoes was as simple as planting an old potato into the soil, well, you'll be surprised. The process of achieving the perfect potato for a particular farmer's needs is a lot more complicated and labor-intensive. As we're about to find out, PSB, or Potato Seed Production, is a company that has been providing high-quality potato seeds since 1971. Year after year, PSB has been able to uphold its high standards and produce top-quality seed under the most rigidly controlled conditions. On our Shepherd Sofa today, we have the Managing Director of Potato Seed Production, Jackie Mellet. Welcome, Jackie, and thank you for joining us here on the sofa.
Thanks for having me.
Talk to me about potato seed production. I mean, it's a very laborious and labor-intensive process. Tell us about this process.
For sure. I'd like to ask, what came first? Was it the chicken or the egg? Well, with a potato, it's almost the same. What came first, the plant or the potato itself? So with potato seed production, it starts in a laboratory where we multiply in vitrally potato plantlets. One plantlet grows up to a stage when you can cut it into 4 pieces every 4 weeks. So that's all done in a very sterile, very controlled environment, where you multiply from 4 plantlets that typically gets imported from overseas. South Africa is very limited to breeding at the moment. So the majority of our in vitro material gets imported from overseas. We've got a couple of local laboratories that multiplies it for us. And that the in vitro plantlet gets sent to us, that we then plant it out into a greenhouse. In the greenhouse, that little plant will then grow and bear the first potatoes. And those potatoes we call mini tubers or generation 0. That's the beginning of it all. From there on, it gets multiplied every season up to a point where we typically sell to the commercial grower as a generation 4. And what you get to eat on the table is typically 6 years down the line from where we started with it in the laboratory.
So it takes 6 years to breed a potato. I mean, I breed with Ankoli, so I never thought you can breed with potatoes.
Yeah, it sounds maybe a little bit more complicated, but so I start with the in vitro planted that gets planted in that greenhouse. So that's the first time that I've got a potato. Now that potato has to grow through its normal growing cycle, which is typically 4 months. Then it has to be culled and it has to go through its dormancy period, which is then the period from being a potato that you eat, where the starch gets pushed over into sugars. The sugar makes it then grow out again, and that's what you see when you've got a potato that's been lying in your cupboard for too long. It starts to sprout. Yeah. And only that is the point where you can actually plant that potato again. A seed potato makes different to a normal commercial potato. It's the whole process that it goes through. We have to register it with Potato Certification Services. It gets inspected twice. Then it gets a whole bunch of tubers are drawn for virus and bacterial wilt test that gets done in Pretoria in our case. And that results needs to be out before I can certify a bag as a generation 2 or generation 3 seed potato. So the contents of that I can then basically guarantee. The certification official had a look at it. You know what's going on the tuber, no tuber blemishes, no soil-borne diseases, no insects and such. And then there was also being tested, clean of virus, clean of bacterial wilt. And that's basically the difference between a potato that you buy at Spar and the potato that you bought from me.
So in that laboratory of yours, you don't use any insecticide? Obviously not.
And the laboratory is not needed?
Yeah.
No. So it's all very clean, they compare it to a heart surgery.
Circumstances.
Yeah, in South Africa.
So once it leaves that, you pack it in a bag, a box, whatever, when it goes to the next farmer, and then obviously he's going to utilize insecticide when he's planting it in his...
For sure, yeah. So once you've got it in outside environments, you've got to be quite strict on the insecticides, yes.
So the specific potato that you now, the seed, is it a high-yielding potato? What makes it special?
There's like 100 different varieties currently being produced. I always like to explain it as such. So McCain, they want a long potato that when they cut it into pieces, it must be those long little fingers that stands out of a typical McDonald's chips box.
Okay.
Simba, they say they're in the business of buying water and selling air, because the potato is 80% water, and when you buy that little packet of Simba, it's 80% air. But in any case, so the potato needs to be round, because when they cut that into little chippies, it needs to fall all the way to the bottom of that sleeve before they close it on that foil. While the housewife, very spoiled in South Africa, typically wants a round, very white, smooth skin potato.
Yeah, with no blemishes or things on them.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know the stats in South Africa in terms of how many potato farmers there are? What is the yield per year in terms of
So
tonnages?
South Africa does about 51,000 hectares. South Africa's typical yield is 42 tons per hectare, which is extraordinary. That, I think, doubled in the last 12 to 15 years, and that's all variety based. So that's better varieties, better growing conditions.
Less water.
Yeah, well, it's less water, I'm sure that's a factor, but on that 42 tons per hectare, that's an average over the whole of South Africa, dry land and irrigated lands. So there's varieties that gives you 90 tons these days, but then there's commercial dry land farmers like myself, and I'm happy to harvest 32 tons a hectare. So it's a total different ballgame whether you're irrigating or dry land.
Talk to me about the drone fertilization.
Drones are becoming a huge thing in South Africa, and there's a couple of institutions where you can go and get your drone license. Very specialized, very close to doing a PPL for a helicopter or an aeroplane. Yeah, so you also have to comply to a medical. You also have to register with the CAA, Civil Aviation Authority, and yeah, so it's very, because you fly with a big machine. That drone that we've got, which is the DJI T30 Agras, weighs 72 kilograms when loaded.
Oh,
so
my
when you
goodness.
when you don't control that thing 100%, it can cause a lot of damage.
What is next?
We've expanded into the kiwis, which is a very exciting, prosperous new adventure for us. Well, started 2019, we planted our first plants, and we're only taking off our first proper crop this year, which is very exciting. And we're also doing lettuce, fancy lettuce for Woolworths. So next time, look at the lettuce that you buy at Woolworths. It'll probably come from us.
Are they actually edible?
Yes.
Because some of those lettuces are not really nice to eat.
Well, it's all about the picture that they make, isn't it? It's got to be red, and it's got to be green, and it's got to be frilly, and it's got to be soft. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what we're aiming, or what we're busy with at the moment.
Jackie, thank you so much for coming to chat to us here on the sofa. And I'm sure the viewers has learned a lot from potatoes. I honestly didn't know that there were so many varieties and that you can actually make a business out of potato seed production. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Jackie mentioned the use of drones for crop spraying, and it's clear that farming has become high-tech, which includes the use of drones.
The reason for using drones is to reduce the wastage of fertilizer and chemical sprays, as well as to remove the tractor from the field, because the tractor causes compaction, it reduces crop yield, it spreads diseases, and you can even spray your fields when the fields are muddy and the tractor will get stuck. So we can spray any crops, anything from field grains to fertilizers, orchards. You can spray weeds. We can spray a farm that takes a tractor about 2 weeks. We can do in like 3 days, depending on the size and how much time we need to move between the blocks. And we can spray about 80 hectares a day. So basically just filling up the drone takes about a couple of seconds to fill. Right now we're spraying Vantex and Marcozep. It's for cutworms and early and late blight on the potatoes. So with one tank, 30 liters, we can spray 1 hectare under 7 minutes.
Before starting, the blocks to be sprayed need to be mapped. Using photos, GPS data, as well as the drone's onboard sensors, a flight plan is created. This allows the drone to autonomously follow a pre-planned route.
So now I can do the block selection, so I can choose this block and just quickly edit it to make sure everything is 100%. So basically the drone is flying itself. It's using the GPS signal with the RTK, and now you can see it's flying the exact lines by its own. I don't need to do any inputs on my side. The initial costs of using drones is very, very high because you need to buy the drone, you need to buy the trailer, you might even need to invest money in a new vehicle. The licensing, it takes about 2 weeks to do, and you can do it at any accredited drone licensing company. So, for example, Sapphire Brew in Nelspruit, that's where I did my licensing. ROC is also required, it's a remote operating certificate. So you also need to have ROC or fly underneath other companies' ROC, and that's also a hassle to get. There's also a lot of responsibilities regarding drone spraying, lots of safety issues you have to consider, and services from someone doing the drones than doing it for yourself.
And you thought planting potatoes was quick and simple. No, it's not. That's it for today, and we thank you for joining us.